Welcome to World Stage. I am Anilesh Kumar. For decades, Africa has seen destitution, colonialism, and exploitation. Post-independence, many countries have invested huge amounts of money into the continent in the name of foreign aid. Now, foreign aid as a tool of economic development is a contested idea. However, there is one country that believes that the money it is pumping into African economy is nothing but an act of altruism. How true is that? My guest today is the chairperson of an organization called State 55, which works towards making sure that African economy stands on its own rather than depending on countries like China. The question is China colonizing Africa? Mr. Joe Bisha, welcome to Democracy News.
Glad to be here and thank you very much.
What makes you think that China is colonizing Africa?
Well, we have to go back to the 1884 Berlin Conference, where the white supremacists partitioned Africa to however they wanted it. China is not doing it like that. Okay, it's very different. We have invited China into our countries. However, the way China is doing it is by the extraction of raw materials from the continent on a massive scale. Now, that in its own way is a form of what I'd call exploitation.
But countries who trade with each other, they engage in export and import. So what is wrong in that? What is your concern? I don't understand.
Absolutely nothing with that phenomenon. Obviously, when you trade, you exchange goods and you pay for goods. My concern about the Chinese influence in Africa is the ratio of investment in comparison to the extraction of raw materials. They bring about 70% of their workforce. Now, that's not developing Africa. It is a kind of retrogressive kind of development.
But they are saying that they are building roads, they are building hospitals, they are making sure that you have the basic infrastructure in your country.
Absolutely. The Chinese are building hospitals, which is a good thing. The Chinese are building roads, they're building railways, they're building ports, they're building airports. But what are these things for? If you build a road as an economy, you want to transport goods. So the Chinese are doing that in order to make it easier for themselves to transport the raw materials that they're taking from Africa into China.
But that road could be used for your own development as well. I mean, you can carry things from one place to another.
It is, absolutely. But the main reason why the Chinese are doing this is for a reason, okay? In about the next 20 or so years, we're going to have electric cars. There's a lot of copper in Zambia, and in the Congo Republic, you have the Chinese transporting all these minerals. They need good roads, they need good ports, they need good airports and that sort of thing to transport their goods. We saw this in the colonial times with the British Cecil Rhodes building a rail line from South Africa up into the north, Rhodesia and all those kind of countries.
Sure, but it is a business. It is a two-way traffic. Yes. So they are, of course, taking resources from your country, but then in return they are paying for that. How does that amount to colonialism? I mean, America is investing in your country or in your continent, so is France, so is the United Kingdom. Why single out China?
We're not singling out China. What you got to understand is
So are you saying that any country which is investing in Africa and taking resources from there is a colonizer, is a predatory?
Absolutely not. What we're trying to say is, look, we have the resources in Africa, but what we do need is to have one voice. We're not going to be traded off by China or the United States or the United Kingdom or the rest of Europe.
So that is the failure of your own people, that you're not able to bring everybody on the table. Why are you accusing China of wrongdoing that?
We're not accusing China.
Because China says that the money that we are sending to you is with absolute no strings attached.
I disagree with you.
Let me complete my argument. The president or his team says that we have left it upon the people of Africa to find a way for themselves. I mean, whichever direction they want to move into, they are free to go into. We are not interfering to that.
That's absolutely not true. Okay, China does not care about dictators. They do not care about democracies in Africa. Okay, they'll come and they invest in your country. Our concern as Africans is when China comes to invest, they'll give you the terms of the investment. We've seen this happen in Sri Lanka with them taking over the port of Hamba Tota. I don't know if I've said that correctly.
Tota, yeah, right.
Hamba Tota. Yes, we've seen this in Djibouti, where the government or the country of Djibouti, defaulted on the loan that China gave them, and therefore they've taken that strategic point of the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean. So do not be fooled when the Chinese say, okay, we just invest in your country and you have to do whatever you have to do.
But they are also giving you interest-free debt, Joe. Sorry to
It's not interest-free debt. They give you, their loans that they give to these countries are commercial-based, and you pay market rates. This is how countries get into debt. And there's a lot of countries that are going to get into debt if they're not very careful. Okay, so Africa needs to be careful and watch yourself.
So what are you looking for? Are you saying that you are somebody who would not like to see Chinese investment coming to Africa? So what is the way out then?
We want Chinese investment. We want British investment. We want the United States investment. Okay, but what we're saying is we want to trade on the same level.
Well, how would you trade on the same level if you have the basic problems in your country or in your continent?
This is where we need strong leadership in Africa, and I think the foreign powers are taking advantage as they always have. In Africa, we need to deal with ourselves. Corruption is a major problem. Okay, once we deal with that, we can come up as one unity, and we have one trade agreement as a continent, and not be traded off. So if China came into Zambia and said, okay, these is our conditions, and we said no, they won't go into Zimbabwe, they will not go into Tanzania, they will not go into Kenya. We have this body like the European Union does, and this is what Africa needs to get their act together.
But the balance, you're talking about the trade imbalance that is between China and your continent.
Yes.
How would you restore it? Because at this point of time, you have places where you don't have electricity, you don't have roads, you don't have hospitals.
Yes.
And the people would say, oh, look, hang on. I mean, it's fine about democracy and it's fine about empowering us.
Yes.
But the first thing that we need is schools, we need roads, and therefore you need investment at least for next 20 years to stand on your own. Now, if you are closing doors of investment, that is a detrimental step.
We are not closing doors of investment. We want to welcome the investment from wherever it comes from. But the investors need to understand that we are a people, okay? We're people that need to be developed. We're people that need to be empowered. Those are the conditions that we need. And if not willing to invest, then we have survived in the way we have survived for centuries. I think we will do with that.
So let me give you an example.
Sure.
Say, for example, if you want to set up a factory in your area,
Yeah.
you need engineers to run the factory properly.
Sure.
Now, in a circumstance, in a situation where you don't have those trained engineers that you're looking for, Chinese people would send their engineers to set up the factory.
Do they have to send 100 engineers? They can send 1 engineer, 2 engineers to train our local people so they can become engineers. This is what we're calling empowerment, and this is what we want. We don't want Chinese to send 200 engineers to come and build up roads or schools. What about engineers? Do you understand what I'm saying? So we need them to work with us. If their true purpose is to help develop Africa, then they will do that. If they don't do that, then you can see the true colors.
Do you not sound protectionist?
Absolutely not. Do the British sound protectionist? Do the Chinese sound protectionist? They didn't want Google, they don't have WhatsApp in China. Is that protectionist? No. The Chinese are a very good example of what I'm trying to talk about right now. They empower their people. They don't have the Google, they have a different network that does the same thing.
But they don't have democracy either. Are you saying that the African continent
I don't think you
should have a system like
I don't
China?
think you're in a position to say that China does not have democracy.
Well, democracy
because what is democracy?
democracy
In what sense do you see democracy in the Chinese perspective?
Where people are given the right to directly elect the person who they want to.
Right. The Chinese, I think, love Mr. Xi Jinping, the president, and this is why they've given him the autonomy to run for however he wants to run.
So you are saying that you are a fan of the Chinese model of governance?
I'm not.
And that is what you would like to see in your continent?
Absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all, because that works for the Chinese government and for the Chinese people. Africa is a very different, diverse continent full of different cultures, languages, and traditions. What we need to do in Africa, however, is to come together as a unit, you know, in terms of trade, even free movement, and to some extent maybe have a single currency if that can be achieved. And then Africa will have a voice in the world.
What is your organization going to do about it? What are you people thinking
Well,
about it?
our organizations are State 55, which is a Pan-Africanist movement empowered by the people. We trying to do what the African Union hasn't done. Okay, we trying to make Africa become one, a stronger voice, and then we'll say to all the foreign investors that yes, we want to trade with you. Yes, we want the investment, but let's work on the table as equals.
Mr. Joe Bisha, thank you so much for talking to us. It was a pleasure, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate that.